welcome to Off the Record. I'm in conversation with author Gouri Dange today. She is the author of 3 Zakia Mansion. She's written ABCs of Parenting, and her latest book is The Council of Strangers. I was there at her book launch last evening, and it was lovely. Actually, Gouri, to be honest with you, I've never heard of you, so I'm very grateful to Vikram for introducing us, because I read 3 Zakia Mansion in one sitting, and it's one of the most beautiful books I've read in recent times. Yeah, and at the book launch yesterday, all the people were very intrigued by the architecture of the Council of Strangers, the way the plot sort of takes shape. So I was wondering if we could whet the appetite of our audience, and if you can tell us a little bit about the book.
Yeah, sure. It's a book about 6 strangers ranging from the ages of 14 to 71 who come together one night. Because they are at an Indian wedding, at a boisterous Indian wedding, and they're not interested in all the festivities, and they slowly trickle away to a cozy kind of corner where nobody finds them, and they end up talking, and their stories emerge. Each of them is floundering in some way or the other, or caught up in some kind of situation, and they feel free to speak out, and the others feel free to comment on what they're listening to. And then from dusk to night, all night, and then dawn, that's the time they spend together. And when they finally disband, they are, it's not like their problems have all been sorted out, but they all have some sense of clarity about how to move forward now.
And what they also do is they all keep in touch even afterwards through email.
Yes.
So it's not like they go their own way. Their lives are interconnected even afterwards.
Yes,
right?
yes. They choose to update each other on what they went back and did with their own particular situations. And I've been asked many times whether this was because I wanted happy endings for everybody. But that's not the point. It was so that they can signal to each other that, look, that night we spent together was so useful, and it showed me the way forward. That's all, the way forward.
I think it's not really a happy ending, because to be honest with you, I read Zakia Mansion and I went through ABCs of Parenting, but I've read only one story so far, one person's perspective, but I did go to the end. I cheated a bit, and I like the way it ends, because you say that Ambika, she feels her way back to her son. So it's not happy, but a very mature, sort of epiphanic, if I may use that word, sort of realization of things. Yeah. But I think you've tapped into something that's very universally human. You're looking at people who think that their lives are burdened, whereas somebody else is actually leading a much better or a happier life.
That's right.
So I think you're looking at something very universal, so it will appeal to everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Because I did think, especially the 14-year-old, you know, in the beginning when it's the writer's voice introducing these people, everybody assumes that a 14-year-old is carefree, you know, and a 14-year-old assumes that grown-ups are so lucky they don't have a whole lot of. So I wanted to bring that out, that inside everybody's containing a lot of turmoil and contending with wrong choices, and really wondering what to do next, where to put their foot next, literally. You know?
But as a writer, when you begin to work on a project, when you're looking for a theme, as it were, do you think, let me pick something that will appeal to everybody, or do you just pick something that you feel is instinctively what you like to write about?
Yes, no, I think I definitely pick something that I would like to write about. When I showed the first draft of this whole thing to an independent editor, young person, he said, "Oh, take out the reference to 2611, the Taj thing. It'll look as if you are trying to be current and popular." And I said, "No, I'm not trying to be anything. This happens to be the TV anchorman, his story. This happens to be the point from where his life changes." You know, so it's not any, okay, now what should 2611 has happened. Now what should I do with it? How do I work it into my writing? Not what.
But I think you got the politics of television bang on, because as somebody who works in television, I mean, that's really the kind of thing that us presenters or reporters go through.
Yes,
You know, we cover something in a particular way. We are sort of catering to what the company wants out of us, what the audience wants, and then the way people perceive us is something completely at loggerheads with what we believe in. So I think you're very, very perceptive about human emotions and the way the human mind works. Is that because you're a counselor? Now, Gouri is a family counselor. She's based in Pune. So do you think your understanding of human emotions comes from the fact that you deal with such a range of people and their problems?
I'd say it's the other way around. I think because I understand people, I became a counselor, really speaking. You know, I think I've always listened well, understood people, not pushed them into pigeonholes or black and white. And I think that's what took me into counseling. But yes, equally, one does become more and more aware of the world, of what's going on in people's lives, you know. The more you get into any one person's an interaction with anyone, be it a counselee or be it just anybody I'm sitting next to on the bus.
But I mean, this is an inevitable question, yeah? Did you draw inspiration from the people you know for the characters that you've portrayed in the book?
Definitely not from counselees, not from anybody in counseling. One, because it's unethical. And the other thing is because I think there's so much other stuff going on out in the active world that you don't need to draw from counseling. Nothing is based on any one person. You won't recognize any one person or anyone, but things that happen to people, things that happen to me. And then there's the pure fiction. You know, I may take, like the nurse, the only little germ I had for the nurse was somebody who used to sit with my mother who just casually said, I've nursed all over the world, but when I was in Manhattan, I threatened to jump from the 17th floor. I felt I couldn't work in that city. That was just a point of departure. None of the other things that happened to Nurse Sajani in the book happened to her. They are all then the art of pure fiction, purely imagining. But you imagine up things which might well have happened to somebody.
I also agree with you completely when you say that we tend to take the counsel of strangers seriously and without resistance, because they're people that we don't know, we've just run into them. And when we're familiar with somebody, we tend to be a little more aggressive and resist what
and
they
defensive.
say.
Yes, yeah. And your own family or friends also hesitate to tell it to you as it is sometimes, you know. While strangers, if the 14-year-old boy turns around and says to the 71-year-old Wing Commander Brahme in the book, why did you behave, you know, as if you were committing high treason just because you fell in love? I mean, a 14-year-old boy from his family would never be able to say this to him. Right?
No, but have you been asked this question, that how can a 14-year-old be so mature and so almost precocious in a sense?
Yes. I did some pre-readings of this book before I got down to publishing it, just to get a sense of in Pune and Bangalore. And there were people who said, I have a 14-year-old and he doesn't speak more than 3 sentences a week. He's so taciturn. But I also do know a lot of very articulate young people, particularly those who are in family situations like this, where there's some big cloud over the family. These children become inward, and yet they're so observant and they're quite critical of what's going on, and nobody's taking them too seriously because the other child, in this case, the other child is the child who's the delinquent child, is attracting all the family attention. But I think they are quite self-aware and they know what is what, you know.
So it took you about a year to finish the book? Yes, it did. Yeah. And what was the gap between 3 Zakia Mansion and this, I mean the writing and the publishing?
3 Zakia Mansion was published in June 2008, and I had been working on it for a year or two before that. And soon after 2008, end of 2008, I had thought, I don't know if I'm going to write anything. I was working on another set of the ABCs, and but these things were like tapping at the door, you know. I think the old man first, then the child. They were half forming, but I wasn't too keen on just making 6 short stories out of them. So in 2009, early 2009, I began to write down literally keywords and sentences so that I don't forget things that I include in it.
Because they're very, very different in style, but Gouri will tell us more about Three Zakya Mansion, which is a completely different kind of read altogether from The Council of Strangers, but that's after a short break. I'm in conversation with author Gouri Dange.